Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you've never seen me before. You guys know the drill. My name is Kilowatt. Today, I'm giving my complete fantasy football guide for 2023 to 2024. I'm going to give you guys beginner tips, people who may just want to get into fantasy football or start out, all the way to pro tips that have helped me win leagues before. And just an overview of how you guys should be drafting this year because I feel like it's a lot different than previous years and things in the past, and you don't want to be stuck in the past drafting with the strategy that doesn't work. Um, so I'm gonna just be doing an ESPN draft and kind of talking through my draft strategy, why I'm making picks. But to start, let me just go over some of the basics. Fantasy football for people who may never not play before. It's where you pick real life NFL players for different positions, and based on how well they do in games, you get points. And the goal is to have more points than your opponent, and whoever has the most points wins. It's pretty simple. Today we're doing a 12-team PPR redraft. And PPR just means points per reception. So for every reception that a wide receiver or running back gets, you get points. Um, so that's basically the basics, and let's just kind of hop into the guide. I'm going to first go over the draft strategy I'm going to be using. It's kind of weird this year because I think that the the running backs this year, are not as strong as a lot of the top wide receivers. So you're not always going to see double running back builds in the first and second round, where you're going running back in the first round, running back in the second round. A lot of times you may have one running back or even zero. What I would recommend is going for a double hero or hero RB build this year, which is when you take 1 to 2 running backs in the first 2 to 3 rounds. Depending on where you're picking, that's kind of going to determine your decision on who falls to you. But anyways, this draft is about to start. As you can see, I'm picking at pick 4 here. So I'm probably going to end up taking a receiver. The ESPN ranks are a little bit skewed. Um, they're a little bit skewed, right? Like, as you can see, I think that some of the running backs here are a little high. Like, I think Christian McCaffrey's a lot better than Eckler. I think Jamar Chase is a lot better than Cooper Kupp. Um, and like he should definitely be higher. I think Tyreek Hill should be higher as well. Derrick Henry should definitely be a little bit lower. I think he's not really as good as guys as Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs here. Um, and you even have some receivers kind of falling a little bit, like Chris Olave here and Deebo Samuel. But anyways, I think the main strategy is here, especially if you're in a casual, more shallow redraft league, which is where you're going to be starting 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end flex, and a quarterback. That's what we call a shallow league because it's not a ton of receivers, not like 2 flex spots or anything. I think the main strategy is to try and knock out your go-to running backs, your go-to guys early. Try and draft receivers through the middle rounds if you can, and try and get either an elite quarterback or an elite tight end. You don't need to have both, but having at least one is almost a must. Otherwise, you're going to get outscored so much at the position. Like, for example, if your opponent has Travis Kelce and puts up about 16 points a game and your tight end you're going to get outscored and it's going to be difficult for you to win because you can't always make up those points, the point differential through receivers. Anyways, as we can see, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Austin Eckler are all gone. If you're in this spot, if you were ever in this spot, I think the top pick should be Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill. That's always how the top 5 should go. So I'm going to find Jamar Chase here and draft him because I don't think that Austin Eckler should be going in this top 5. I don't think that Bijan should really be going here either. You can take him obviously if you want in these leagues where running backs are kind of a bit harder to get your hands on, but I think that Tyreek Hill is a really underrated option. Um, because they're still able to get value with running backs like Travis Etienne, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs later in the draft, right? So You don't always have to hammer your running backs up top. Obviously, if you have good value, don't be afraid of taking a running back, but you can take a running back up top if needed. Like I said, this year's a little bit different because I think the running backs are a little bit worse than the receivers this year. Um, so you don't want to force yourself to take a running back, but at the same time, you don't want to force yourself to take a receiver if you still have good running back value. Now, something that I think is a little bit overvalued is Derrick Henry. I don't think he should be going over guys like Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard at the running back position. My reasoning for this is Henry's getting a bit older. And you don't really know how good the Tennessee offense is going to be this year. Like, what is he's going to have in store? His offensive line is degrading. So I would be a little bit nervous taking Derrick Henry. But other than that, I think a lot of it is simply just ADP, best player available. I do think that AJ Brown is a little low on here. He should probably go up with like maybe CD Lamb, maybe above that, around Amon-Ra. But it's pretty straightforward as long as you know when to pick your running backs, when to pick your receivers. Like since I did go Jamar Chase in the first round, I'm going to want to try and get a running back in later. What I would advise against is taking 2-0 running backs the first 3 rounds. Like here, I'm tempted to not even draft a running back because I think by the time this comes around, I don't know. I think it's very risky. I think I'm gonna have to go Travis Etienne here. Oh no, I should have taken Breece Hall. That was my bad, guys. I didn't see Breece Hall there. Um, but anyways, what I'm saying here is you want to make sure that you're able to get a solid running back up top, preferably two. As you can see, the running backs kind of fade out pretty quickly, right? Um, so you're gonna want to make sure that you can get a solid one in up top, whether that's a round two guy like Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, or a round one guy like CMC, Bijan Robinson, etc. We're about to be back on the clock here, and we're seeing Jalen Waddle might fall to us, right? We're seeing that Jalen Waddle might fall to us. Now, if things like this happen, where you're seeing very good wide receivers fall, and you say, well, I really kind of need another running back here because there's a run on running backs, and I'm not really going to be able to have a good running back. I need that strong running back duo. This is where I'm saying before, do not force yourself into taking a running back. Take receivers, good receivers if they're available, like Jalen Waddle. Now, the only mistake I made is maybe taking Travis Etienne over Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is a bit of a better pick, but that's all right. Now, if you're looking at our team, I'm thinking it's really strong up top. We have Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Travis Etienne, and I'm not nervous that I didn't take two running backs the first 3 rounds because I'm going with the hero RB strategy. This is a great example of the hero RB strategy. We're still going to try and hammer receivers through the middle rounds and try and pass over these dead zone running backs, which is a term used for running backs drafted in the middle rounds, typically 4 through about 7, because those running backs don't normally produce. So we're going to try and pass over these running backs unless I see a guy I really like, and just try and draft receivers as well as, remember, an elite quarterback or an elite tight end. So if we're looking at the quarterback still available, we're seeing Justin Fields' ADP is very low for ESPN. I think he should be rated a bit higher. And if we're looking at the tight ends, well, not too many elite tight ends left. I do think TJ Hawkinson is still a good option. So we're just going to see where things come to us. We're not afraid to take another receiver here on this next pick. And then maybe go for a quarterback and a running back a bit later, maybe like a Kenneth Walker. All right. So you're always going to have to adapt, and that's the main thing that if you can do in fantasy football, you'll be okay. Your drafts are never going to go according to your plan. You can't always go for a hero RB or a double hero RB or any type of build. You don't want to force your team down a specific build. just because you think that that's going to work. Sometimes you're not going to see the value you wanted, or you're going to see some value somewhere else, but you can't be scared to take that value. Like I said, do not force yourself into picking a running back or picking a receiver because you get nervous that you're not going to have one later. Now I'm on the clock here, and I'm not seeing too many players that I like. And I'm kind of not really sure what to do now. I think Joe Burrow would be a great pick here, seeing that when the turn comes back around to us, we could still get an elite wide receiver. And I don't think that Justin Fields is going to be available later. This is also going to pair up nicely with a Jamar Chase stack. It's just going to give us a lot of upside. Joe Burrow, Travis Etienne, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle. I'm still not too worried about drafting a running back because there aren't any guys I like. You need to wait for the people you like, the people that you believe in, to come up. You don't want to force yourself down a specific route, like I've said before. Now, if we're looking down here, I mean, the running backs are thinning out a little bit. I will say that. We maybe go with like a Miles Sanders. Okay, he's not available. But even like a J.K. Dobbins, I would be pretty happy with if he somehow fell to us. Now, I do kind of need to take a running back at this position because if we're looking at the running backs, they kind of drop off pretty quickly. And you're not going to be wanting to take really some of these guys as your RB2. So if J.K. Dobbins falls to us, I'm pretty high on him this season. I do think he could be a good option. Now, it is tough to sometimes pass up on value like this with Christian Watson. But if we're looking at our next pick, it's going to be very far into the 6th round. So I'm going to have to go J.K. Dobbins here, secure that second running back. Now, team would look a little better if I did draft Breece Hall, like I said before. But overall, this is still a pretty solid build, I believe. We're not pressured to go for an elite tight end because we already have an elite quarterback in Joe Burrow. Kyle Pitts is actually really, really low on ESPN for some reason. Keep an eye on this. His ADP should be way higher. George Kittle's also pretty low as well. So you can still get those elite tight ends in later rounds. But overall, I'm liking our build. Now, the reason that I wanted to make this video is because, like I said, I think drafting this year is a lot different than previous years. Previous years, you may think, I can pass up on the tight end position and streamline it, or pass up on the quarterback position and streamline it. But especially in your shallow leagues like this one quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, and 1 flex, you need to be taking an elite quarterback or an elite tight end, as well as your early running backs and receivers to build. You can't just mindlessly take 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds, spam receivers in the middle, and then take a quarterback at the very end of the draft. That doesn't always work. So you need to be thinking about your picks, thinking about what other people may choose as well, and making informed decisions, taking players that you truly like. Because depending on what set you're drafting on, things are going to be different, and depending on the run on your wide receivers, the run on running backs that you're going to have in your draft, in other words, how fast do the running backs go away, how fast do the receivers go away, you're going to need to adapt, like I said. In these ESPN drafts, the running backs fade pretty quickly. But so that means if you are a smart player, or if you're a smart drafter, you're going to be able to take advantage of that, taking 2 elite receivers up top like I did, and getting your running backs through the later rounds are going to be able to help you get the win. Get the wins in your fantasy weeks. Now here, I'm not too mad with taking maybe a Christian Kirk, maybe a Drake London or a Michael Pittman, but for this draft, I'm gonna take a look at the tight ends. I think we're gonna have to pass a little bit on tight end because we're not getting any of those elite guys. So we're gonna go with a solid Drake London here, to round out our flex spot. And what I would suggest is even after you fill up your flex spot, try not to worry too much about backup running backs. Focus more on your backup receivers because once you get later in the draft, receivers are going to be more productive than running backs. So you kind of want to hone in on those receivers. Make sure you're taking 4 to 5 receivers through the middle rounds, the maybe 7, 8 rounds of your draft, just in case, one is injured or bye weeks or anything like that, you still have many options to start in your receiver slots as well as your flex. Because where games are really won and lost is not your first round picks like Ja'Marr Chase or Jalen Waddle or even Etienne here, but through these elite onesies, as I like to call them. Shout out to Ron Stewart. There's elite onesies such as quarterback and tight end, but as well as your flex position, because you can use that flex to outscore many people. Now, coming in here, I really am liking Brandon Ayuk a lot this year, especially at his ADP. So I'm going to demonstrate that, and I'm going to select him. Now, I don't really love Michael Pittman too much. He's coming in with Anthony Richardson, who I don't really know too much about the passing upside. And Brandon Ayuk, I think, is really going to have a breakout year this year. But anyways, this is really not a video to go too much into rankings, but more about draft strategy. So as you could see, I think I've drafted pretty well so far. I mean, you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. But this is really just a typical draft that you might have. Going one running back up top, taking your receivers, taking an elite quarterback or tight end, hammering receivers through the middle rounds. Maybe a running back you like, such as J.K. Dobbins, and then just finishing out your draft pretty easily. I mean, taking best player available from here on, grabbing myself maybe a decent tight end, such as maybe Evan Ingram, and just moving on. Some other things that I wanted to talk about as a guide to fantasy football is the waiver wire. When you get into your season, the waiver wire is very, very important. And if you are diligent with your waiver claims, making good waiver claims, that could make or break your season. For example, last year, I believe I was able to claim Ramondre Stevenson off the waiver wire, and that was huge for me. So make sure you're using the waiver wire often, claiming guys such as rookie running backs, rookie receivers, people who have breakout weeks, and making sure that your bench spots are reserved for high upside players that can maybe not going to give you a ton of points right away, but have the ability to have a huge explosion and score a lot for you and turn into one of your top guys. So these late round picks is where you're going to want to be using on high upside players to round out your team. Now, in this situation, I'm gonna go just take my tight end. I'm gonna be taking Evan Ingram here, a little stack with this Jaguars offense. I do think the Jaguars are gonna be a lot better this year with Trevor Lawrence. I think he's gonna take a step forward, and I'm showing that by taking Travis Etienne as well as Evan Ingram in this draft. Another thing I want to talk about is trades. Trades can be very important throughout your season. For example, let's say this was an actual draft, and I see that both Brandon Ayuk and Drake London are having massive, massive seasons, and they're doing much higher than expected. Since I can't start Chase, Waddle, London, and Ayuk all at once, what I would advise is trading one of them away to upgrade your team in another area. I think that a lot of newer players shy away from trades because you don't want to seem like you're overpaying, or you kind of want to stay with your guys. You don't really just want to trade people away, but I think trades can really save your season if let's say that you have someone like Evan Ingram who's really struggling. I could trade Brandon Ayuk or Drake London away in order to upgrade that position. Now, in this scenario, there's no running backs that I really like. I'm going to take a shot in the dark at Juju Smith-Schuster here to round out my receiving core and take some high upside running backs at the end of the draft in order to round out my team. But like I said, I do think that trades can really make or break the season, and always try and upgrade positions that you're weak on. Like, for example, my weakest slot here is really tight end. I do think that my flex could be a bit stronger, but overall, it's going to be the tight end position. So if I could maybe trade away one of these extra receivers that I have for an upgrade to tight end, that would honestly benefit me a lot. So don't be scared to use trades during your season. And I think that's pretty much all you need to know about fantasy football. The most important thing is your draft. Once you get into the season, you can still manage your team with things like waiver wire and trades, which are very important as well. But one tip I would give is just have a draft strategy in mind. try and, if you can, know what pick you're going to have before. Try and plan out who might be available and who you might want to take, and just have an idea of guys you like. If you really want some underrated players this year that I'm liking a lot. Hold on, let me just make my pick here real quick, guys. Um, you know what? We will go with. I'll go with Rashad Penny here. That could work out, maybe. But if it doesn't, it's okay. But some guys that I'm really liking this year that are a bit lower, or a bit more underrated, a bit some sleepers, something you would say. Sorry guys, let me just make my other pick here. I kind of need another running back, so I'll take Devin Singletary. This much doesn't really matter too much because most people are on auto pick. Um, so yeah, let's see. Can I go on auto pick? I would like to go on auto pick. Anyways, some sleepers that I'm thinking at the wide receiver position. Chris Olave, really big sleeper. As well, I think Calvin Ridley is a pretty big sleeper. Let me scroll more to the beginning here. I think that Nick Chubb is a bit of a sleeper, like even being ranked behind some guys like Derrick Henry and such. Both the Jets guys, Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson, could have some good breakout years. I think Trevor Lawrence at the quarterback position is a very big sleeper this year. Could really have a good breakout year. Maybe DJ Moore as well is a pretty big sleeper, and J.K. Dobbins as well. So if you're seeing these guys pop up in your drafts, maybe take them if you want. But like I said, you just have to find guys that you like. I'm just gonna take a backup quarterback here. We'll take Derek Carr. I think he's a lot better than Stafford. You just have to find guys that you like, and then just draft them. Draft the guys that you like. Draft the guys that you believe in. People that you're gonna want to root for um, throughout the season. And yeah, I mean, other than that, have a good season, guys. Good luck in your drafts. And if you want more videos like this, maybe me going over like some rankings or more sleeper picks that I have for players, it's kind of a more thought out, well designed video. Um, just let me know and I can do that for you guys. Um, Anyways, I think that about wraps us up. If you guys have any questions or anything that I didn't answer or anything that you want me to clarify, be sure to leave it in the comments. I will be pretty much responding to everyone who comments here. And if you need me to make maybe an updated or more concise or clear video, I can do that as well. I know this might not be this is kind of my first attempt doing this, so I do have a lot of things to improve upon. So yeah, just leave me a comment with how I did, anything I could improve upon, any other questions you have. And I think that's going to be it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much. Love y'all. Peace.